Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome back to this episode of Complaint Free Life. Today, I'm not really feeling well because I didn't sleep well. There were so many alarms in this town where I am now in Ukraine. And now, as I wanted to start my recording, another set of alarms are going off. So, this is, I think, also triggering a lot of fears that obviously happening, you know, uh, reminded of all the war and all the tragedies that are going on in the same country where I am now. So that's why I feel like today I'm very sad and down and with fear that I'm experiencing. But despite this, I wanted to do this recording. And interestingly, that I wanted to talk about inner freedom. And I thought this would be a good topic to talk about, especially when I'm feeling this fear and at the same time experiencing this inner freedom in general. And like, if I think of inner freedom being this vast thing and fear being very small and very like in one place located, like in my chest area underneath the chest, right? So this feeling that I'm experiencing. So I thought it would be a great way to also explain what I mean by inner freedom and how it's manifested or how it's shown in the world when we experience inner freedom, contrasting with inner fear. Because I feel like whenever we're contrasting, things are more clearer and understandable better, especially with concepts such as inner fear and freedom that are maybe a bit difficult to grasp, sounding abstract. So before I do that, though, I want to share with you an amazing news that I am starting to work on the content of my program for transitioning humanitarians and how to help them best transition to the life they want, to loving life the way they want to and designing life the way they want to. And I have been working on this for some time now, and I'm now in the phase of actually writing the content of it, and it's going to be amazing because I have already so many things that I have gathered from my experience of my clients and how best to help them to get to from A to B and how to work on overcoming those challenges that they experience, including fear. And all of this coming out in September together with my branding and with my new website, with my new podcast. Everything will be renewed with the vision of helping humanitarians live the life that they desire, whether they stay in their current work environment or they want to explore something new. Okay, so that's why stay tuned for that. Now, coming back to inner freedom and fear. If I look at how I'm experiencing inner freedom, just to describe it to you, and I would really love for you to also explore it within yourself, how you experience it. Because I feel like our lives are essentially, I think I talked about this in other settings, our lives are essentially like the spectrum of inner freedom and fear and being like this or this. If you are listening to me, it's a bit like a spectrum that looks in the form of like a scale and it goes one way or another, or maybe it goes in the middle as well. It tips to one side or the other. And I have found for my life, at least, to be true that whenever I am doing this, or whenever I'm leading my life, mostly relying on that inner fear, not interfere, but inner fear. When I'm relying more on that inner fear, then I'm not really liking my life much, because I'm experiencing a lot of this anxiety, the frustration, the disappointment, and constraint, this some type of constraining and struggle, excuse me, that are based on this fear, and therefore I'm not really liking my life, and I don't feel like, excuse me, I'm thriving in my life. And that's why I have learned that the more the scale needs to be weighed on the inner freedom, right? So where the inner freedom leads them in the leading seat, so to say, then I start liking my life more. I start being creative more. I want to do things more, and all of this. And when I'm saying this, you may be saying that, well, obviously everyone knows that, and I can understand that, but I really want, not up at the intellectual level knowing it, but I would love for every one of us to experience it at the feeling level. Right? So experiencing at the feeling level means that if we're really feeling it, if we're really experiencing it, if we're really noticing this freedom coming out, noticing this freedom allowing us to trust ourselves, to bring out all the desires to the surface for us to be working on them or to be pursuing them. If we're really doing that, then we are really ready to explore and live our lives the way we truly want to, instead of constraining and confining ourselves to, this is what I have to, and this is how I have to, and all of this stuff. So that's why the way that you know that you are experiencing more of your inner freedom and relying on it, and you really truly sense this and rely on that inner freedom, the way you know that that's happening is not only that you're feeling, but your actions, your results, your life is demonstrating to you that this is what's happening. So where you are full of energy, where you are full of visions of how you want to live your life, and how you want to not only affect and impact your life, your own life, but also maybe of others by contributing and being helpful. So the contrast that I want to bring to you so that you understand what I'm talking about is that if I look at the past, if I look at my own past, right, the contrast that I had in the past, like growing up in a small village in Kyrgyzstan with very traditional conservative parents, and unfortunately also witnessing a lot of violence, physical violence, of beatings. And thankfully, it did not affect me personally in a sense that I was not beaten, but I have witnessed beatings of other people, my family members, a lot of the time, in the way that even now I'm thinking about it, it makes me very sad and wanting to cry about it a lot, right? So you think about those situations where I was in, where all of this violence seemed like unpunished, or all of this violence was accepted. All of this violence somehow made it sound like this is the way to solve things. And there is no really other way. And as a child, as a person growing up, I think automatically, and of course, a lot of psychologists would also say that automatically my behavior was, how can I not create any problem, right? How can I not pursue anything of my own? Because there is this huge fear of adapting, huge fear of doing everything to be flexible, to doing everything to please the person who was violent, doing everything to be liked by that person so that I'm not beaten up, right? So then the contrast is, and this is of course an extreme example, but this is, I'm just looking at where I've started to where I have come now. The difference is huge. And all of this is because of me, of course, interacting with the outside world and starting with that inner freedom, the constant, inner fear, constant fear of how to basically survive that environment, right? And even I remember the times when even I would be experiencing nice moments, right? I would be experiencing also nice family moments with my family, and in believing and fearing that what if it ends? And also fearing that I hope I wasn't too happy there, because if I was too happy, then the next thing will be that there will be another violence. So I would even be fearful of being happy in order not to have that violence, because my brain was interpreting that this everything is like whatever I'm experiencing now is temporary. The happiness is, and even I shouldn't be that happy, because if I do, then it may then later turn to everything being violent. So having those experiences and later going through life also believing that everyone else is violent, especially men, right? And believing that, my desire at some point was that if I have a boyfriend who is not violent, who does not beat me, that would be already amazing. That would be my expectation, so to say. And that behavior of mine of wanting to always adapting, wanting to always adjusting myself, being flexible the whole time, being afraid of even being happy, because I would somehow link that being happy means that then I will suffer. And suffering is only way to keep being low profile, so that later, I think I've interpreted that being like everything has to be at the level of this suffering mode and not really happy mode, because if it's happy, then it will again come to suffering. And in order not to experience this differences in experiences, I guess I would at some point prefer to just stay in the suffering mode, and believing that if I don't suffer, I don't deserve this or that. And you can see that how much of that violent behavior of someone affected how much of the way that I have developed myself as a child, and how I have also developed my worldview of how things are, in always believing that suffering is somehow the answer. There is no really other answer, right? And we're not even talking about worthiness and valuing each other. Those are the things that I think I have later in life had to learn. And those are the things that I had to learn after learning how much I have started from the ground level of not even thinking about myself, but always trying to not upset everyone else around me and making sure that everyone else is happy. And starting from that ground, and then slowly coming to realizing, wait a minute, is this really how I want to live my life? Yes, I understand that was when I was small in the family where I had no much control. And I understand that this is how, unfortunately, my situation turned out to be. And I'm not saying that that's the only thing happened in my life. Obviously, there were amazing other experiences that I have also experienced, but these are some of the biggest events that shaped and continuously created this fear. And because the fear was always there, that I have even believed that being happy must be, I must be cautious in being happy, right? Because otherwise, God forbid, something else happens. So coming from that level of fear to realizing that, how do I want to live my life? And how do I want to live in a way that is not really based on fear anymore, right? So up until then, I think I was always like, fear was leading my life. And, you know, fear of not failing university, obviously, because my parents spent so much money to help me enter it, which I'm very grateful, but still the fear of not failing, fear of not being on the streets or finding a job, wanting to, of course, desiring to work with refugees, and that was amazing. But also later having that fear of, oh, I have to stick to what I have now, because so many people want to have this type of job and they're not getting it, and I have it, so I should be eternally grateful. And I was grateful, but still, like, everything based on this fear of not wanting to lose this job, and then fear of not wanting to upset the colleagues, not wanting to upset the bosses, or all of this fear somehow so entangled in me, within me, that I felt like I lived most of my life like in the watch out, right? In the watch out of always trying to be flexible, always trying to be super polite, always finding the guilt in myself, or finding the problem in myself, and always trying to adjust to things, to be okay with whatever's happening, to be wanting to be always grateful. And all of this, I haven't really realized how much of that was being generated from fear. Now, once I realized, and once I also realized that I actually can rely and want to rely on my inner freedom of knowing that I can trust myself, knowing that I can trust the universe, knowing that I can trust all my abilities, all my experiences of creating what I want to create. Now, what do I want to do? Right? So that's where the things gotten very interesting, because now I feel like I can choose to do things and continue doing things from the place of wanting to do it because I trust that I can make it work. I trust that even if I don't make it work, I will deal with the consequences. Instead of, now that I'm here, I have to really do this. Or now that I have done this, I better not rock the boat. Now that I've decided to be part of this, then I better not piss anyone off, or I rather be so good at everything that no one is upset with me. right? So instead of like wanting to take control of everyone else's behavior or perceptions of me, wanting to not upset anyone, wanting to always be flexible and available and adjustable, instead of all of that, if I let myself guide from that inner freedom, which I'm experiencing now, then I can just do things in the way that I want to do, that feels good to me, that feels aligned with me, that feels fulfilling, that feels like this is really what I want to be doing. And that I do that irrespective of how much money I earn, or how much reputation I get, or how much stability I get, or whatever. But I do it because it feels true to me. I do it because I really want to contribute my way this way, right? Where I do this because this is me. This is how I want to show up in the world. No matter what others say, no matter what whoever says, this is who is me. This is how I want to show up. This is how I want to live. This is how I want to express myself. Because I can finally access that inner freedom, that vastness within me that has so much potential, so much of the creativity, so much of the resilience, so much of the wisdom that I can tap into, and then just explore where that takes me. So that you know that currently I don't have any of the insurances, I don't have any of the pension, anything else, simply because I wanted to experience how is it like life, or living life, where you are not creating external safeguards to feel safe, but rather develop your inner safety yourself without anything external proving to you that you are safe, but rather you do that within. This is the life that I'm living now. And maybe this is not the right one for many people who are listening. Maybe this is very reckless for many people who are listening, and I can understand your views on that. But I wanted to live this life and experience this life where I have absolutely no attachment to anything, no contracts, nothing, and really feel how it is like to live life where you have all of that within you, where you have all that safety that you can create within, that freedom you create within, and that you trust that all you're doing is leading you to the right path, to the path that you want. And when you have that level of freedom, you just feel like life is as open as ever. You can create it the amazing way you want to. And you can just love it with all its ups and downs, with all its fears and freedoms, knowing that you will go through all the difficulties because you're strong, knowing that you can rely on your inner strengths to go through those difficulties. And even if, like I am now, experiencing my fear of what's going on outside, knowing within that I'll be fine. Knowing within that I trust the universe, I trust myself, I trust the people around me, that I will be fine. And I can continue working on what feels really true to me and feel the joy doing it. And feel the joy of seeing how it affects other people and feeling grateful for that. So my dears, this is what I wanted to say about inner freedom. I want every one of us to experience this freedom, to know that we are capable and in such great shape to create that inner freedom, to uncover that inner freedom that allows us to live our lives the way we want to, whichever that way is. Thank you so much for accompanying me through this journey. Today is the 100th blog post that I have written, and I feel very proud that I have found 100 different ideas to share with you, to process myself, my emotions through those writings, and connecting with you by sharing those ideas. Thank you so much, and I will see you next Friday.